Okay, I'm going to try to be quiet because people are sleeping in this apartment. I'm not trying to back into this except to say, so with the Mandela Effect, it seems. Oh, and trolls, who I've started to attract some of. Please keep your comments coming. They're very amusing. I will not delete them. They're you're welcome here. Um, but I will not respond to you, even though I have some very funny and insulting responses. I will not share them with you. But so when we look with the Mandela Effect, when we look at the new brain anatomy, it seems that the prefrontal cortex is smaller. but um, but we seem to be the same people in a lot of ways. And I somehow don't think that this change involved Hannibal Lecter hacking away at the seat of good manners or any other part of our brain with his bone saw. So, and I don't know that I wouldn't bet that I'll ever understand how this happened or the nature of how this merge or change happened, but it it brings me to some kind of post physical or metaphysical um, ideas that not I have trouble denying, even though they are far outside of the realm of anything that I would have allowed myself to think before the Mandela Effect. Um, for instance, um, mental illness. So it appears it's like so I was mentally ill before this transition, whenever it happened. I'm still mentally ill, but it does seem that the brain has changed. So did I get a new blank brain, and then the giant computer at the center of the universe was like, all right, but we're still going to make him mentally ill. So, like imprint the same stuff onto his brain that makes him mentally ill, so that he has a new brain, but yet he's still mentally ill. Um, and then I start to almost think that it's it's like we're not really from the old Earth. We just have always been here on the second Earth or in the second Tesla dimension or whatever, and we just happen to have all these memories that make us think that we're the same people as those people that were on the first Earth. But of course, that doesn't make any sense because that's the whole point of the Mandela Effect is that we have memories from a history that is not the history of this place. So we have brought with us or memories have been transferred or merged or something, memories from this other place. So those are things like mental illness that are supposedly in your brain, but that's what I'm starting to question. I mean, and it's pretty universally accepted that memories are in your brain, but I'm starting to wonder if things like memories or mental illness are really in your brain at all, Um, it seems to me reasonable to question at this point whether something like mental illness isn't um, a spiritual problem. That's maybe a strange term to use there, but um, I mean, if I have a new brain, but I have old memories, I mean, what's to say that because someone I forgot the name of the person, and I'm sorry, but someone commented in one of my threads about meditation and the switching of information back and forth between different halves of the brain, and I think that same person was saying that maybe people with dementia have been cured. Well, maybe they have, um, But I mean, I seem to have brought along my illness. As far as I know, maybe I don't have bipolar disorder anymore, but I think I do. I think I still have my illness, but it makes me question whether my illness is in my brain or not. And it makes me think that maybe it's not. Maybe my illness. I mean, yes, we have things like brain scans, okay, and they appear. There's a metaphor that's going on there. It appears that we are shooting some kind of light or magnetism or whatever it happens to be through the brain, and we're discovering structures in the brain, and we can look at those structures. Like in the case of bipolar, there are scans that can not diagnose bipolar, but that can indicate that someone has these things called hard bodies, or extra activity in certain parts of the brain that aren't aren't diagnostic of bipolar disorder, but they are indicative of bipolar disorder. So we have this metaphor that we're shooting magnetism through the brain, and then we get this image back. But that does not mean that that's really what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Like that's very possibly just a metaphor. You know what I mean? Like it may be that that the images we get back that look like they're objects in the brain are really objects in the brain. You know what I'm saying? Like those could actually be, for lack of a better word, spiritual constructs. It may be like one of my brain disorders, tardive dyskinesia, has to do with damaged dopamine receptors. So, we have tests that determine that these dopamine receptors are damaged, but maybe there's no such thing as a dopamine receptor in the brain. Maybe there's no such thing as the brain. I don't mean to get too open-ended, but maybe tardive dyskinesia isn't caused by damaged dopamine receptors in the brain. Maybe that's just the best metaphor we have for it right now. And it's actually, like I said, for lack of a better term, a spiritual problem. It's a problem best understood with a different metaphor. And I think the Mandela Effect brain changes specifically suggest that some of these metaphors, like the metaphor of dementia or the metaphor of other brain disorders or illnesses of the brain, or features of the brain like memory, I think it becomes now very reasonable to postulate that memories aren't in the brain, that mental illness is not in the brain, that it's not even a feature of the brain. You know what I mean? We may have metaphors that allow us a view into some greater reality, which to us looks like a brain with damaged dopamine receptors or a brain that contains memories. But I'm starting to wonder and really think that it's reasonable to question whether or not memories are in the brain. I don't see that as something I can assume anymore, that memories are in the brain or that mental illness is a feature of the brain. I'm starting to think that it's reasonable for me to look at different ways that I might be able to cure my mental illness that have nothing to do with psychiatric drugs that treat the quote unquote brain, but that I might be able to access some other kind of quote unquote spiritual metaphor that lets me heal my movement disorder, perhaps. And I'm going to look into that.